Initiating moisture.
Winchester, how moist is it? A question no one's asking, but a question I'm gonna answer nonetheless. It's not very moist, it's real dry, it's a real bad movie. I didn't like pretty much anything about it. It was a bad movie. I really didn't enjoy it. Let's go ahead and get into it. So, this follows the trend of all modern horror movies where it's inspired by actual events, inspired by a true story. This shit really happened in a marketing effort to make it scarier to the dumb people that would believe such a bullshit claim. Winchester says it's inspired by actual events, which of course is just filthy anus. Straight up rotten, scummy anus. This movie is as inspired by actual events as I, Robot is inspired by the time I built a Gundam figurine when I was 6. The only facts this movie gets correct are the Winchester mansion existing and being a labyrinthian maze, and Sarah Winchester being the one who made it that way. Obviously not with her own bare fucking hands or anything, but she had people working on it around the clock. I'm not here to ass blast you with a history lesson here or analyze the Zapruder film on Sarah Winchester's mansion building. Do your own research, but spoiler alert, she didn't build it because of some type of ghost story or Pirates of the Caribbean curse or anything that this movie tries to convince you of. So just look up the real reason. It's a fascinating story. Let's get to the movie though. Only thing I liked about this movie is the setting. The Winchester mansion served as a really cool set piece, and I thought they did a great job with that. It just had a certain charm to it, and there was a lot they could have done with it. There was so much potential of using the Winchester mansion, but they clearly didn't utilize it to its fullest by just having doors slammed shut like Scooby-Doo. It's fucking dumb. The movie relies entirely on jump scares to scare you. 100%. There is one scene where there's 3 back-to-back-to-back-to-back jump scares. It was silly, but that was actually probably my favorite part of the movie. I actually would encourage a horror director that wants to make an over-reliance on jump scares to double down on it and make everything all about a jump scare. This movie was super close. It ticked all the boxes on jump scares, how to do them, what to do with them. Every time you expected a jump scare to be there, there was a jump scare there. Every jump scare you've ever seen in a horror movie was likely replicated in this movie, but they started to drift away from that in the second act and try to make it a more story-driven or message-driven piece, and it just really fell apart. And it ends with a fucking shootout with a ghost. So I'm not trying to spoil this movie for all enthusiasts out there excited to see Winchester, all for you. But towards the end of the movie, the main character gets in a literal shootout with a ghost. It was very silly. Very, very silly. Like, that's some shit you'd see on some Saturday morning cartoons in the 90s. But that's how it ends. More complaints I have that I could pick apart this movie all night and day, but I'm not going to. Every problem that most people have with modern horror movies is in this movie. They don't do anything well other than have a cool setting. The acting, I will say, that was pretty decent across the board. They really sold their shitty characters, which is impressive. But there's just nothing here. There's no real mystery. There's just no real substance. It's a boring horror movie, which is surprising because everything was supposed to be about jump scares, and they still somehow made that boring. At no point was anyone on the edge of their seat. I went to this movie on opening night, and there was only about 8 other people in the theater, so no one really cares about this movie, but I'm still going to moist meter it anyway because it was a bad movie, and I think people should at least be aware. Would I say it's a so bad it's good movie? Almost. It really teeters on that edge of being so bad it's good, but I don't know if it quite reaches that threshold. Let's just jump into the fucking conclusion here. There's just not a whole lot for me to pick up. Well, I mean, there's a lot for me to pick apart, but there's not a whole lot I want to pick apart because there's just no point to doing it. Just looking at a trailer, I think you can get into a sense for how bad the movie will be. So I'm going to give this movie 15%. It's just not good on any conceivable level. The only thing good about it is, I guess, the acting and really just the setting. But it's more disappointing that they had such a great setting because of how bad the movie turned out. So that's it. Yeah. See ya.